Hi everyone, welcome back to Life with Cloud. Today, this video will be the very first series in the block of series video that I talked about in the intro video. We're going to take a look at a card game that I came across probably 2 years ago now. When it first came out, or when I first got it, I played it casually with friends here and there, nothing too serious. But recently, it's been a staple of ours every Friday night. We do play this quite often now. As me and my friends have gotten to know the game, it's been quite competitive, and it's been really, really fun, and I actually quite enjoy it. So I hope as I'm going through this, if you guys want to check it out, definitely check it out. It is quite a fun card game. So let's kind of show you what to expect first. So the card game, as you guys can see up here, is from Disney, or it's a Disney card game, and I'm a huge Disney fan. I grew up watching, the cartoon versions of Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Snow White, Cinderella, Lion King, right? And then from there, I've watched the sequels, and not all of them are really great, but I still really enjoy Disney as a whole. So this card game is called Disney Villainous, and it's actually created by a company called Ravensburger, and we take on the villain's perspective of our favorite Disney movies, right? So it's super cool. Our goal in this game is actually to complete the objective of the villains. So in certain cases, if you are, say, Maleficent, you're putting curses everywhere. If you're Jafar, you want to take over the genie and Sultan. And if you're, Prince John, you're trying to collect as much gold as possible, essentially, right? So it's kind of cool. It's super fun. And so in this video today, what we're going to do is we're going to go through, I guess, what's inside the starter box, what to look out for, how to set up the game, and then a very quick rundown of how to take certain actions within the game, right? So this is going to be more of a how-to video for this one of how to play this game, Disney Villainous. In the future, what we're going to do is I'm going to actually review the different decks that you see, or you will see, in future videos of Disney Villainous, and how to play through those decks, what to look out for, and what strategies that you can do based on different decks and stuff like that. So I hope this will be a really fun series. I'm going to enjoy reviewing it. I've already had a lot of fun looking at the decks. So let's take a look at what's in the starter deck. So we've unboxed everything that was inside of the starter box, and so super neatly laid out. We'll start with the box, I guess. This is what the front of the box looks like, or the top of the box, Disney Villainous. And then over here, this is the bottom of the box, and I love it where it says, which villain are you, right? Because we're playing through the villain side of the story. In the starter box, you have Captain Hook, Maleficent, Jafar, Ursula, Prince John, and Queen of Hearts, right? Looking down here, these are the different decks that we talked about. So these first three is Jafar, Ursula, and Queen of Hearts. And then on top of each of them, you see they have their own unique card backs, which I thought was really well designed. And then here on the other side, you have the other three characters. We have Captain Hook, Prince John, and Maleficent, right? And so these are their player tokens, so to speak. Down here, you see we have the player boards, or the villain boards, I guess. So I just laid them out in order. You have the Cauldron of Power, and so these little chip here things are called power tokens. And then you have your villain guide, I guess. So it will tell you what to look out for, basic strategies. And then here are the action symbols that we're actually going to go through in more detail later in this video as well, right? So this is what the contents of the box look like. Oh, and then of course you have the instructions that comes with the box here on the right-hand side. So when we first begin, you want to familiarize yourself with, I guess, the different cards that exist within your deck. So there are a total of 6 card types that you want to be familiar with. 4 of them belong to the villains deck, 2 of them belong to the heroes deck. So the two cards that you want to be familiar with in the hero deck are your heroes, and these are the ones that can stop or slow down the progression of the villain story. And then the second one is effect, right? So these are the ones that will impact, either strengthen your heroes or make your villains weaker. From your villains deck, you have 4 different cards, right? So you have an ally, someone that you can summon to help you. An effect, so something to help you progress through the story faster. An item which can be attached to a hero to make them, or an ally to make them stronger, or an item that helps you, in this case, unlock certain things. And then last but not least, a condition. And a condition is a card that can be played on all your opponent's other turns, not yours, right? So in this case, this one plays when another player has 2 or more items in the realm or in their space, right? So a condition can be played at any time that is not your turn. So this game, to start, you can have anywhere from 2 to 6 players, and it could take anywhere from like 40 minutes to like 2 hours to play. But for everyone playing, this is kind of what you should expect to start off with. So a couple things to look out for. First thing is you have your Cauldron of Power here with all of your power tokens kind of in the middle of the field, in the middle of everyone. Every player is given their action symbol cheat sheet. So this cheat sheet just has all of the different symbols, and you can see the symbols on the game board underneath us right here. And so we'll go through actually what each of these one mean and how to do it, how to play through them as well. Everyone should be given their villain guide. So today we're just using Jafar as the example. And so as you guys flip it open, you guys can actually go through what to look out for, or some of the things to look out for, and then different cards as well of what abilities the person has, right? So Jafar plays as almost a spellcaster. So, you know, he's very magician based, has a lot of different tricks, and we'll go through that in a future video, right? Some game boards, as you noticed, and we use Jafar for this example specifically, down here in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a lock there. And so what happens is at the very beginning, if you see that lock, you would actually put one of these lock tokens on top of your game board, and then you would have to complete a certain objective to unlock this player location or villain location. You have 2 decks. The first deck is the colored card back, and this is called the villain deck over here. And then on the other side, the white one here is called your hero or your fate deck, right? And so what you'll find in both of these, in these decks, is in the colored one, you'll find cards that will help your villain character progress through the story. In this white back one here, you'll find heroes, or your opponents or your other people you're playing with will find heroes and effects that will stop you from progressing in your story, or to slow you down in your story, right? And then the last but not least in terms of setup is you get your player character, and always starts here in the furthest left-hand location of your board, right? Every board has 4 different spaces. So in Jafar's, you have Sultan's Palace, Streets of Agrabah, Oasis, and then the Cave of Wonder. So I just set up the board here as if there was 3 players. So from our perspective, we're playing as Jafar. So we have our action symbol cheat sheet, our villain guide, and then our player board set with the lock. Let's say someone said, hey, I want to play as Maleficent. So that's what it will look like for her and her deck. Notice that for Maleficent, she doesn't have a lock on the furthest far right player location, or I guess location. So she doesn't have that restriction. And then let's say the third player decides to play as Queen of Hearts. And so you'll take a look at Queen of Hearts here. And she also doesn't have a restriction or a lock on this 4th piece here as well, right? But this is what kind of everyone's player board starts to look like. And so you're ready to begin. Awesome. So now you are ready to begin to play. So everyone first starts by drawing 4 cards from their villain deck here. So we draw 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And we all take a look. at our cards and try and figure out, what is good, how to play our strategies, whatever it may be, right? So once we have our cards, everyone decides who gets to go first. Oop, that card, that fell out. Everyone gets to decide who gets to go first. And then, so let's say today, we're lucky because we're the one vlogging, we get to go first, right? So our first action, and there's always 3 actions that we take. The first action we take is this. We will move our player character to any other location that is currently unlocked on the board, right? So we cannot move to the Cave of Wonders because we haven't completed the objective to unlock it. So as Jafar, we can only move to Streets of Agrabah or to the Oasis, right? So let's say our first move is to move to the Oasis. By moving to the Oasis, I now, as Jafar, can use any of these 4 action symbols that you see here at this location. So the first one that we're going to take a look at is this one here, called Gain Power. So, Gain Power. So to gain power, it's that symbol there. And so the number inside tells us the amount of power tokens that we can draw from the Cauldron of Power. So in this case, we're drawing 3. And so as we take a look, the next thing that we get to do, or the next other things that we can choose to do, is there's 2 options here to play a card. So what that means here is the symbol here, play a card. And so we can play 2 cards from our hand as long as we have enough power tokens. So as we take a look at hand, we have Snake Staff, Giant Hourglass, Scrying, and Unnecessary Sacrifice. And so you'll notice at the very top of each of these cards, there are numbers of indicating power tokens. So that tells us how many power tokens is required to activate each card. So let's say I take my first play a card action and I say, I want to play Unnecessary Sacrifice. So Unnecessary Sacrifice costs me 0 power tokens to play. Cool. So we do what it is. So let's say discard an ally or an item under your control and gain 3 power. So we activate Unnecessary Sacrifice. And let's say I discard this item here. Let's say I discard Giant Hourglass. So I do that and I gain 3 more tokens. Now I have a total of 6. Now, that was only one player card. Now I have a second player card that I can choose. So let's say I choose to use Snake Staff, right? So it costs 2 power to play. So I will take 2 power, throw it back in the cauldron, and I can play this item anywhere I wish. So when you play a card or when you play an item, you can place it at the very bottom of any of these locations that is currently unlocked. So because Cave of Wonders is currently locked, I cannot play Snake Staff there. So let's say I play, I don't know, let's just for the sake of today's game, we're going to put him down here by Sultan's Palace. And so we have used 3 of the 4 abilities on Oasis' location. So we've drawn 3 energy crystal, we've played a card which was Necessary Sacrifice, and then we played the second card which is Snake Staff. Now the third thing, the last thing we can do is this one here. And that symbol is activate. So if you have a card that has this symbol here, you can actually activate its effect. So in Snake Staff, I have to pay 1 power, put a Hypnotize in your hand, in your discard pile into your hand. So Hypnotize is a deck that's in here, which is required for part of Jafar's deck, and we'll talk about that later. But if I choose to activate it, I can say, I will pay 1 power if I had it, and then to take a card from my discard pile and then put it into my hand, and specifically the Hypnotize card. So this is my discard pile here. And so now at the end of this turn, once I've used all 4 activities, I only have 1 card left. So before I end my turn, or an indication of ending your turn, is you must replenish your card up to 4. So I have 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? And so these are my new cards that I have. And so this also ends my turn as well. right? Moving forward, this next player takes their turn, and the next player takes their turn, and then everyone progresses through their story, trying to either unlock certain things, defeat certain characters, and that's pretty much it. So in terms of your round or what you're supposed to do on each turn, that's what it will look like, right? So as the game has progressed, you'll notice that, let's say player boards have developed. And so in Jafar's example, we've now been able to use the scare pendant that we see down here. And so that's, unlocked the Cave of Wonder. So there's no more lock there. Genie has been summoned. The magic lamp is out. We've summoned Razul and Princess Jasmine. So you may wonder, well, how did you get all of these things out on the board, right? And so the next thing we want to talk about is, how did Genie come out, or how did Princess Jasmine come out, is this here. So you'll notice here on where Jafar's standing in the streets of Agrabah, this one here, right? It's a cloud with a lightning bolt. And so if we come back to our cheat sheet, the cloud with the lightning bolt means fate. And what that means is that on other people's board, one of the people we're playing with, has stepped on one of their locations and they've activated fate. What fate does is it actually takes one card from your opponent's fate deck. So we draw a card here, and so we draw a card, and then this card, let's say we drew Wish or they drew Wish. When Wish is played, attach it to a hero, that hero gains a +2 strength. So let's say someone who is playing Maleficent or Queen of Hearts steps on Fate, they draw from my Fate pile, and say they draw Wish, and they attach it to my Genie. As you take a look, Genie is now down here, +6. So he starts off with 6 strength, and then Wish gives him another +2. So now he's a total at +8 strength. So moving forward from there, when a Fate card is played or drawn, what it does is it actually either attaches it to an existing hero, or if you draw a hero itself, like Jasmine here, right? So when someone draws it, we can play at the top of the player board. So the purpose of playing at the top of the player board is now it blocks 2 of the possible actions that we can now no longer do. So in this spot, in Oasis, if we wanted to, let's say move our character piece from here, Streets of Agrabah, back to Oasis, what's going to happen is, because Jasmine is blocking the 2, we can only draw 3 power or play a card. So we've lost out on the opportunity to play 2 cards and even activate a card effect, right? And so how do we get rid of, or what would happen if that was the case? Someone was blocking us. So what would we need to do is we would need to look for this symbol here, Vanquish. So Vanquish, as we can take a look, is here on this board here at Sultan's Palace. So in one of our turns, we would move our Jafar back over here. And so this allows us to take a couple of actions. So the first action it allows us to take is we can perform a fate, right? So down here in the bottom right-hand corner, we will perform a fate. So let's say I draw a card from my opponent and I drew another hero, Mad Hatter. So because I drew a hero for Queen of Hearts, I choose to play her or him here and blocking 2 more of her squares to slow down her progression. Second action we can take is Vanquish. So as we take Vanquish, what it does is we take a look at the cards that we have, the heroes that is on top, and the allies that we have at the bottom. So the ally, in this case, is Razul, has a power of 3. Jasmine also has a power of 3. And so for us, we are able to vanquish Jasmine in this case, as long as the power is equal to or greater than the person we're trying to vanquish. So in this case, when we activate Vanquish, Razul gets discarded, and Jasmine also goes to the discard pile. If we ever had the example of like that, where Razul is on Streets of Agrabah and Jasmine is here on Oasis, we cannot vanquish because they are not on the same playing field, right? What we would need to do is go to move an item or an ally. So we would need to move Jafar here to Cave of Wonder. And so on Cave of Wonder, in the bottom right-hand corner here, we will see the symbol for move an ally, right? So when we choose to say move an ally, we can now move Razul from Streets of Agrabah adjacently to Oasis, or from Streets of Agrabah adjacently to Sultan's Palace, right? And so we can't jump, or we are unable to jump from Streets of Agrabah to Cave of Wonders. It's only one adjacent to the left, or to the right, I guess, and then or one to the left, right? And so in this case, from Streets of Agrabah, we move him one adjacent piece or space over to Oasis in preparation for our next turn to vanquish Princess Jasmine. The last one on the action card is move a hero. So in the same way, so Jafar does not have, yes, I was right. So unfortunately, Jafar does not have move a hero on his game board, and that sometimes happens, right? So if move a hero existed on Jafar's player board, what we would be able to do is we would, oh, this is bothering me, okay. Sorry, this is bothering me right here. So if move a hero was on Jafar's player board, we would then be able to move Princess Jasmine over one adjacent one, or if we wanted to stack up Genie on top of the same Oasis one, right? So unfortunately for Jafar, he doesn't have that option, so he must then move his allies over to defeat or vanquish the heroes. So as you've played through multiple turns and everyone's having fun and playing through their stories and trying to slow people down, you might wonder, or you might ask, how do we win, right? And so each player or each villain has their own very unique objective. So in this case, Jafar's is start your turn with the magic lamp at Sultan's Palace and Genie under your control. So what does that mean? So as you take a look here, we have the magic lamp here at Cave of Wonders. And so we would eventually, through the play of the game, have to move magic lamp over to the Oasis, move it to Streets of Agrabah, and then move it eventually to Sultan's Palace, right? And then the other thing that we would need to do for Jafar to win is to have Genie under our control. Currently, Genie is not in our control because he is the top of our game board. So we would somehow need to bring Genie down here to the bottom of our game board, and it is considered our control, all right? One thing that you want to be very careful about is the wording in this game. Coming back to Jafar, it says start your turn with the magic lamp and Sultan at Genie under your control. So the very important thing here is start your turn. So let's say we've played through our turn and this is our game board at the end of our turn. This does not mean we've automatically won. We actually have to wait for a full cycle of players to go through and for it to come back to us before we win. So let's say this is our game board, and then the player of Queen of Hearts goes, player of Maleficent goes, and no one does anything to stop our board, and this is our board again. We now win. Now, this type of board does not exist for every single player. Some players, like Queen of Hearts, do not have the condition of win at the start of your turn. So let's take a look. So let's say someone is playing Queen of Hearts. And so her turn, or her objective, is have a wicket at each location and successfully take a shot. So for her, it doesn't stay at the beginning of her turn, at the end of her turn, as long as she has the condition of having wickets at each location and taking a successful shot. That's all that means, right? And so she can do it at the start of her turn, mid-turn, end of her turn, whenever she does it. Queen of Hearts, that's when she wins. So as you guys are playing through, the objective of this game is to complete your objective before all of your other players, and the first person or the first player to complete the villain's objective is the winner of the game. And that's the end of Villainous. So hopefully someone has won and other people have lost in the game. But playing through this game, as you can see at the very beginning, there is a lot of information, a lot of rules to get to know, to familiarize with. And it took me and my buddy some time to really read all the cards, learn the play styles of each of the different decks. We've all played through each of these decks multiple times, so we get a feel for what they look like, and we definitely have our favorites. That's what inspired the rest of these block series video was that each of these videos will be dedicated to one deck specifically to look at the player board, to look at interactions within the villains deck and also the heroes deck, and at the same time how they progress through the story and how they win their respective conditions as well, right? And so if I missed anything, or if you have questions about setup, basic gameplay, feel free to comment below and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And in future videos, we will be going through each of the respective decks. And so also, if you want to let me know which one you want to see first, happy to do that as well. So hit that subscribe button for those new videos coming out. And as always, thank you so much for spending time with me today, checking out this video, and hopefully I'll have a chance to see you guys again next time. But if not, bye for now.